we have the cow. We're actually going to transform it into the chort here. Let's just remove its shield first. And if we transform it into the chort, it is good value. Like a 10 for 6 provisions is good. Prize winning cow as requested by Fingent Noctuary. And I must say that prize winning cow at some point was an interesting card. Not saying it was ever good, but it was interesting because a 6 for 10 at some point in the game was actually strong. Now, was it saying like amazingly strong? No, but it was actually good. A 6 for 10 would be good. I keep saying this backwards. A 10 for 6, the 10 provision chort. However, this is tied to the order of prize winning cow, and as cards have gotten stronger and power creep came into the game, a 10 for 6 is just not that good anymore. Like it would be good, but definitely not with the order. At some point, you could make the argument that, for example, before Berenger came out, a 10 for a 6 was actually pretty strong. Berenger's even only a 9 for 6, and he's played in pretty much all the heavy Witcher decks, although there's not a lot of those, because that's good value for him to come down as. Now, the issue with cow is he's tied to this order, transform into chort. The issue is that this order makes him significantly worse. He dies to 1 damage, which is for... You cannot expect this to work without some sort of protective setup on cow. And the payoff is no longer good enough to really, even if you're trying to make more of a meme deck, really justify this. Because in the past, if he transformed into a 10, you'd actually, like, that was actually really good. Nowadays, it's not. If he comes down, if you just play a 10 for 6 provisions, that would actually be really good. And if we look at similar cards that have a high value come down for power, we have in monsters in particular is where we would look for these. Griffin's a 9 for 5, but he has that ability where it's destroy a unit. The most likely comparison we have probably is Ice Giant, which is a 7 for 5. If you add up a provision, you can actually take a look at, if we go to 7 here, we have Goliath and Pugo are 7s. So I would argue that I wouldn't argue. If you could just play the chort instead of prize winning cow, it would be really good. The issue is you don't have that option. You have to click the order, and he has to survive at, it was 1. It has to survive at 1, which is not great. So you have to protect him. If you have to protect him, he is not really worth it at all, which is the problem. Now, prize winning cow, I do think is interesting. What I think would make prize winning cow much more viable, interesting, is as the power creep of cards has gone up, he's always stayed the same. So it used to be transforming him into a 10 was really good. Transforming into a 10 now is just pretty good, and it's harder to do. What I would really like to see for cow is the chort to get buffed. I don't care if cow stays at 1. If you have to set him up, I think that's fine, and you have to commit to it. However, I would really like to see the chort. I would like to see the chort bigger. I think that's all it would really take for... People still wouldn't play him in like viable decks, but I think it'd be fun. But like a 12 or... this is a little excessive, but... Like a 12, maybe even up to a 15 would be way too strong, I think. But people still wouldn't play it, but the option would just be like, it's a feel bad if they don't do it. If short was like a 12 or something, this might get more play and people trying to have a bit of fun. But as it is now, cow transforming to a 6, we have stuff like Greatsword, where if you play Megascope on it, that's a 10. So in comparison, cow is significantly worse. It's a little unfortunate because I actually think prize winning cow is interesting. These cards that have... All these cards that have setups and payoffs, I think, are way more interesting than the just, I play my value card, I play my professor, I damage your guy and kill it. I play my heat wave from Beagle's muzzle, I play my card, I answer your card. I find these cards with setup far more interesting than just these mid-rangey value cards people like to play nowadays. Does that mean they're better? No, but I think they make the game much more interesting, and I think they make a larger element of skill in both deck building when you play the game. So I'd like to see stuff with... like prize winning cow, have a higher payoff. Now, if you want to play prize winning cow, which I did, by the way, to make this video, there's probably 3 choices you want to go with. And the best choice, in my opinion, is going to just be playing Prophet Laboija. Now, why is this? Because you don't want your protection of your cow to get wasted. So, for example, you could play your prize winning cow with some kind of setup that boosts. Carrick Marine is a terrible example because you don't have Devotion, but we're just going to use it for this purpose. You have something like Carrick Marine, or like Armory or something with an order that gives boost or armor. You play the prize-winning cow, you boost it so it doesn't die, but then when you transform it, you lose the boost. Potentially another change to be prize-winning cow is that if he he transformed, he would add the boost himself. That wouldn't really work, though. So really, though, you just don't want to play anything that boosts the cow, which means that the best way to keep your cow safe is a shield, most likely. In my opinion, it's always been a shield. Northern Realms has shields. If we take a look at what we have, the reason why I say Prophet Laboija is because if you're playing a shield wall deck, which is what I ran the prize-winning cow in. Yeah, I did that. You don't lose value, right? You don't have to use a leader charge shield. You could also use the Cintran Artificer shield, the order to give a shield here. And that's not too much value you're putting on the cow. The cow can live and go to 10. Is this a good way to play shield wall? Probably not. Is it kind of funny? Yeah, it is. So this is just one option. This is what I would go with if you really want to play cow. Now, if you don't want to play shield wall Northern Realms, the option would remain as Lady of the Lake as a neutral, who I think is also underrated, who might feature on the next series if people want to see her. But she has shield, she gives a shield. Now, giving a shield is usually only valuable to protective engines, and Lady of the Lake is actually one of the best cards in the game to protect your engines from damage removal, especially big ones, which is interesting. But you can use her to set up your cow if you're not playing Northern Realms. But yeah, that's prize-winning cow. Really like to see his transform buffed, and I think that'd make him a lot more interesting. This is an example of me playing the cow. Let's talk about it here. Like I said, Laboija or any type of shield setup's probably the best way to use him. I would not recommend doing this, and actually we got a mill player here. This is actually pretty funny because mill is really exploitable if people know what you're doing. So actually here our cow has a fair chance of winning. Normally I say this is really bad versus Nilfgaard because they typically run Tourney Joust. And if you're using a shield setup, Tourney Joust removes the shield and kills your cow, which feels really bad. However, since he's playing mill, I don't think we have to worry about that here. And look, we have our cow set up. Ideally, we just want this cow to get to transform to his 10. The only way to really get value out of the cow multiple times would be to renew him or shuffle him in to your deck and play him again with Lippy or Alyssa, whatever her name is. That's an option. But here we have the cow. We're actually going to transform it into the Chort here. Let's just remove its shield first, and if we transform it into the Chort, it is good value. Like a 10 for 6 revisions is good. So yeah, that's prize-winning cow for you there. I ended up winning that game. Prize-winning cow coming in pretty clutch there as a 10 since he couldn't remove it. But I really wish he had a higher payoff. Like, I think if he had a higher payoff, he'd actually be an interesting card. Because as power creep has come into the game, he's become less unique, where the setup for a 10 is no longer special. Like, if you lived to a 10 before, that'd be really good. Now it's okay. It's pretty good still, but it's not amazing. I wish he had a higher payoff. I like him being risky as he is. Wish he had a higher payoff. You saw in that game was a perfect example of how I would suggest you use him if you really want to. Give him a shield, and then use the shield to protect him, and next turn transform him. You can replay him again with Renew. You can shuffle him into your deck with Lippy, and not Alyssa, like I said a minute ago. What's her name? The Nilfgaard card. A Seer. A Seer is the card I'm talking about. So you can shuffle in with a Seer. There's obviously better cards to shuffle in the prize-winning cow, but those are the only ways I can really think of to make use of him more than once, which is really what you're going to be wanting to do. Now, if there was, for example, if there was a discount Renew, so Renew brings back a card with 9 provisions or lower. If there was a bring back a card with, say, 6 provisions or lower, I'd say cow might be interesting in that case. However, people would probably use, kind of like Freya's Blessing. You see that use a Messenger from the Sea. That only plays bronzes. If there's something that instead of only playing bronzes, Necromancy too. If there's one that's provision limited instead of bronze limited, I think cow might be interesting in that regard. But as it is, unfortunately, not just making it. One last shout out here to cow is you can actually play him in beast decks. Mostly you'd have beast scale. There's also the very niche beast monsters. The issue I have with both of these is that even though he's a beast and you can play him in the decks, those are two factions which don't really have good protection options to set him up. So in that case, I think he won't work out too well, although he technically is a beast and you could put him in there. That's one last mention I wanted to say for him. But yeah, that'll be it for this one, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed our first discussion video. Leave comments underneath this video if you have any other ideas for cards you want to see looked at. And hopefully you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time.